Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. In this video, we'll learn how to create line charts in Matplotlib from scratch. We'll start by understanding what a line chart is and then create our first line chart using Python. After that, we'll customize the chart and add titles and labels. We'll use grids, legends and figure size and we'll learn how to plot multiple line charts on the same graph. We'll also build a simple real world example and discuss some common mistakes that beginners should avoid. So, let's get started with our first topic, that is, what is a line chart? A line chart is one of the most commonly used charts in data visualization. Whenever you want to show how something changes over time or how values increase and decrease in a sequence, a line chart is usually the best choice. Think about everyday examples. Suppose you're tracking your daily sales for a week, your monthly expenses, the temperature over 7 days, or even a number of visitors coming to your website every day. If you simply print those numbers, it's difficult to understand the overall pattern. But once you connect those values with a line, suddenly everything becomes much easier to understand. That's exactly what a line chart does. It connects different data points using straight lines. So we can easily identify trends, increases, decreases, and any fluctuations. If you look at the illustration on this slide, notice the blue line. Each blue dots represent one data point, and those dots connect together to form a complete chart. On horizontal axis or x-axis, we usually place categories or time values like days, months, or years. On vertical axis or y-axis, we can place the actual values that we want to measure. As the values grow up, the line moves forward. If the values become smaller, the line moves downwards. So, just by looking at the shape of line, we can quickly understand how our data is behaving. That's why line charts are used everywhere in business reports, finance, stock market analysis, weather forecasting, website analysis, scientific research, and many other real world applications. Now we know what a line chart is and when it's useful. Now let's create our first line chart in Matplotlib. If you have never used Matplotlib before, don't worry on that. We'll see simple codes which you can understand. Now, I'll explain an example for this. Create a line chart. First, we have imported the pyplot module from Matplotlib because that's the module that provides all the functions required to create a graph. After that, I've created two simple lists. The first list contains the day from 1 to 5 and the second list contains the sales values for each of those days. One important thing to remember here is both lists should have same number of elements because every x-axis values need a corresponding y-axis value. Next, we use the plot function. This is the function that actually creates the line chart. This takes the first list as x-axis and second list as y-axis. Then automatically plots the points and connect them in a line. After creating the graph, I've added title using title function and then used x label and y label functions to give names for both the axes. This makes the chart more understandable. Finally, we call show function. This tells Matplotlib to display the chart on the screen. Without this function, the graph will be created internally, but it won't actually appear for us to see. Let's run the program and see the output. As you can see, Matplotlib opens a line chart where horizontal axis represent the days and the vertical axis represent the sales values. The blue line connects all the data points in order and it will make it easy to understand how sales changes from day to the next. Instead of reading five separate numbers, we can immediately see the overall trend. That's the biggest advantages of using line chart and it will help to visualize the changes and patterns that you can see here. We learned how to create a basic line chart. The next step is making it better. By default, Matplotlib draws a simple blue line, but in real projects, we usually customize the charts to make it more attractive and easy to understand. Matplotlib provides many customized options. We can change the color of the line style like solid, dashed, the line width, and even add markers to highlight individual data points. We can also change the marker size and colors. These small changes can make huge difference because a well-designed chat is much easier to read than a plain default chat. On this slide, you can see all the commonly used customized options listed on the right side. These are the options you will use most often while creating line charts. Now let's see an example for this in VS Code. In this example, we first imported matplotlib.pyplot because that's the library we'll use to create our chart. Then we created two lists. One stores the date, another stores sales values for each days. These two lists become x and y axis for our graph. Inside the plot function, instead of drawing a plain line, we are customizing its appearance. We change the line color to crimson and we'll make it dashed line using line style parameter, and we'll increase its thickness with line width, and we added circle marker so every data point is clearly visible. We also customize the markers by giving them gold fill color with black border, making them stand out. After that, we added title to our chat and meaningful labels for x and y axis. Finally, we enabled a grid with dotted lines and straight transparency, which makes it easier to read the values without making the chat look crowded. The show function here at the last will display the final customized line chart. When we run this program, we'll get the same sales data as before, but now the chat looks much more professional. The crimson dashed line connects all the data points. The circular markers make each value easy to identify, and the title, labels, and the grid improved readability. It shows how a few customization options can completely change the appearance of a chat without changing the underlying data. Once we create a chat, the next important step is making it understandable. Imagine showing someone a graph without title or without telling them what the x-axis and y-axis represent. They would probably have no idea what the graph is trying to explain. That's exactly where we'll use titles and labels. The titles tell us what the entire chart is about. The x-axis label explains what is shown on the horizontal axis, and the y-axis label explains the values on the vertical axis. Matplotlib also lets us to customize these labels by changing their font size, font weight, color, and even spacing around them. These formatting options make our chat look more professional, especially when we create reports or presentations. Let's see an example for this. In this program, we again begin by importing the matplotlib.pyplot, and then we create two lists. One represent the days of weeks and another represent temperature records on each day. We use plot function to draw the line chart, giving it a blue color, circular markers, and the slightly thicker line for better visibility. Next comes the most important part of this example, that is using title function. We added a meaningful title called weekly temperature report, and we customized its appearance by increasing the font size, making it bold, and changing the color to dark blue, and adding some spacing above the chart. Then we'll use xlabel function and ylabel function to describe what each axis represents. Here we also customize the labels by changing font size, color, and spacing from axis so they look more professional. Finally, I have used show function to display the complete chart with all formatting and improvements. If I run this code, we can see a neatly formatted line chart with the title weekly temperature report. The x-axis clearly shows the days of week, while y-axis represent the temperature values in degrees Celsius. Because everything is properly labeled, the chart becomes self-explanatory and anyone can understand without needing additional explanation. This is why adding titles and labels is considered as best practice whenever we create chart. Now let's learn how to make our line chart cleaner and easier to understand using grid, legend and figure size. A grid adds reference lines to help us to read the values more accurately. A legend tells us which line represent which data set, especially when we have multiple lines in the same chart. Figure size will control the width and height of the chart, allowing us to adjust it based on our needs. These features don't change the data, it will make the chart more organized and professional. Let's see an example for this. In this example, we first import matplotlib.pyplot module and we created two lists named X and Y to represent the months and their corresponding sales values. Next, we use plt.figure function figure size 6, 4 to define the size of the chart. The plt.plot function draws the line where label is equals to sales, gives a name to the line and the color is equals to blue. It changes the color to blue. After that, we add chart title using plt.title function. And the title we are giving is monthly sales. And we have used plt.x label horizontal axis and for vertical we have used y label function. Plt.grid of true function displays grid line across the charts, making it easy to read the values. Plt.legend function displays the label of the plotted line inside a legend box. Finally, I've written show function to display the complete chart on the screen. After running this program, a line chart appears showing a monthly sales data. The chart has a clear title at the top and labeled x-axis and y-axis visible grid lines for easier reading, and the legend displays the label sales. Because we specified the figure size, the chart is displayed with the exact width and height we requested. Sometimes a single line is not enough. We may need to compare two or more data set on the same chart. In Matplotlib, we can do this by calling plot function multiple times. Each line can have different color, marker and the label, making it easy to identify. Multiple line charts are useful for comparing data like sales and profit, temperature in different cities, or any two related data sets. To make the chart clear, always use different colors, proper labels, and legends. In an example, let's see how to do this. We import Matplotlib and create one common x-axis representing the months along with two separate data sets named Y1 and Y2 representing sales and profit. We call the plt.plot function twice, once for each dataset, given a different color, marker style, and label so that they are easy to identify. After plotting both the lines, we add a chart title, label the x-axis and y-axis, and we'll enable the legend to display the names of both the lines and turn on the grid for better readability. Finally, I've written show function to display the chart containing both datasets together. When the program is executed, you can see a single graph is displayed containing two different lines. Blue line represents sales while green line represents profit. The legend clearly identifies both the lines and the grid helps to compare their values at each month. Since both datasets are plotted on the same axis, it becomes easy to observe how sales and profit changes over time and compare the overall trends. Now, let's see where line charts are used in real life. Imagine your manager gives you a monthly sales data and asks you to prepare a report. Looking at the table of number isn't always easy, but when you plot the same data as a line chart, you can quickly understand whether sales are increasing, decreasing, or staying the same. That's why line charts are commonly used in sales reports, business dashboards, website analysis, weather reports, and many other areas where we need to show how data changes over time. Let's see a real example. First, we import matplotlib.pyplot module, py, pyplot module, create our chat. Then we create two lists, one containing the names of months and another containing company's monthly revenue. Using figure function, we set overall size of the chat so everything is clearly visible. Next, we'll use plot function to draw the line chart where we customize the line by choosing blue color, circular marker and marker size and line width. After that, we need to add meaningful chart title along with hex labels for both x-axis and y-axis. So anyone looking at the chart will immediately understand what the data represents. We'll also enable grid lines to make reading values easier. Finally, type layout function will adjust the spacing automatically so nothing overlaps, and the show function will display the complete line chart. When we run this program, you can see Matplotlib generated a professional looking line chart showing company's revenue from Jan to December. The month appears on the x-axis while revenue values are shown in the y-axis. The blue line connects all the monthly values, making it easier to observe how the revenue changes throughout the year. We can clearly see where the revenue increases and where it drops slightly, and that the company finishes the year with its highest revenue. This is exactly how line chart helps us to analyze trends in real world data. Now, it's also important to know some common mistakes that beginners often make. Avoiding these mistakes will help you to create charts that are clear, professional, and easy to understand. Not adding labels and titles. One of the most common mistakes is creating a charts without titles or axis labels. If these are missing, viewer may not understand what the chart representing. Not using legend for multiple lines. When the chart contains more than one line, always add a legend. Without it, it becomes difficult to identify which line represents which dataset. Poor color choice. Using color that are too similar or difficult to distinguish can make the chart confusing. Choose clearer, contrasting colors for better readability. Too many lines or markers. Adding too many lines, markers, or unnecessary formatting makes the chart look crowded. Keep your chat simple and focused only on the important information. Ignoring grid lines. Grid lines help viewers to estimate values more accurately. While they are optional, adding them often makes the chart much easier to read. Next is incorrect data lengths. X-axis and y-axis data must contain the same number of values. If their length doesn't match, if the length don't match, Matplotlib will raise an error and the chart won't be created. Next is not adjusting figure size. Using default figure size is not always the best choice. If your chart contains more data or longer labels, increasing the figure size makes everything easier to read. Next is hard to read fonts and styles. Avoid using very small font sizes or decorative styles. Use simple readable fonts and appropriate sizes so your chart looks cleaner and professional. I hope this tutorial has helped you understand the complete process of creating professional line charts in Python using Matplotlib. If you found this video helpful, like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more Python videos. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next video.